So thanks for joining me on today's podcast. So as I'm recording this, I'm getting back from a conference, the Infinite Banking Concept Think Tank, which was in Vegas. And it really was an inspiring event. And I wanted to just share just some of my key takeaways as I reflect on the few days that I was there. It was quite amazing. It was the first one I've ever been to. I mean, I've been associated with infinite banking for some time. I've used it. More recently became a practitioner, so I'm really getting immersed in it. And it was really inspiring to go and attend and be around practitioners from all across the country and even from Canada. And so it just being around other like-minded people, it always can bring so much energy. And so I just went in with my eyes wide open, ears open, just trying to absorb whatever I could and be the sponge and be constantly be a sponge. And so it was really fun. But just like anything else, when you're going to conferences, it can be almost overwhelming. Too many things, and I think this is where you can come back home and reflect on kind of what do I take away from it? What are some things I want to potentially do differently? And so I just wanted to share just some of the core elements that I got out of it and how it may impact me going forward, and give you kind of food for thought in general around if you're using the infinite banking concept or considering it, what to think about. So, just like anything, when you're going back to conferences, sometimes it's to reinforce certain things and sharpen the saw, if you will, that concept of just maybe working on some fundamentals. And going back to the conference, it really struck me again some of the core elements and sort of rules around the infinite banking concept that sometimes as you're going through it, you may forget. And so it was really good to refresh on that and really think about what they truly mean and whether we're adhering to it or not, right? In all cases. So, if for anyone who's read Becoming a Banker and the concepts around this, there are five pretty key rules around the infinite banking concept. The first one is to think long term, and this is very difficult. We live in such a fast-paced world that everyone's looking for that edge or quick fix, and it's just a natural instinct in the world we live in today. But to think long term about things is something that's key and fundamental to becoming your own banker, because we're using and thinking about this for multiple generations and going forward. It isn't just what we're going to return in a given year. This is really about capitalizing a banking environment that you're going to use throughout your life and likely pass on for future generations to adopt and learn. So really, when we're from how we structure the policies to how we're using them, really thinking long term about things. Obviously, we have to act short term, but really anything we put into place is with the thought of this is going to be used down the road and apply for us in our later years in life as we're building it. But then how does it transfer into the next generation and how they learn about how to manage their own finances and how they leverage this banking function for their own lives through the infinite banking concept. So think long term. The second one is don't be afraid to capitalize. Now, when you're building up and when we think about the infinite banking concept, because you're mimicking the banking function in your life, it needs to be funded, right? How else are you going to be able to use a bank if it's not really funded? And so this is where we, as users of the tool, and certainly for me teaching it, is the importance of capitalizing, making sure you're putting those investments just like it's a business, right? Businesses are likely not profitable very early on, but thinking long run about it, what are you putting in terms of capital to ensure it's resourced properly and it's set up for success in the long run? So this is something, especially when people are associating it with life insurance, it's almost like a bill. But as people get to understand and know this is just a storage bin of wealth that gets better and better as you own it. And so you have to kind of realize that sometimes early on it's slower to gain momentum, but when it picks up steam, it's going to be hugely beneficial as it builds up over time. So it's really making sure that we capitalize and resource it properly. The third rule is the don't steal the peas. And this is anyone who's read the book, Becoming a Banker, Nelson Nash talks about not stealing from your own grocery store, right? If you had a grocery store and you owned it, would you just poach all the product from it and basically eat into your profits? Well, no, you want to ensure that you don't steal from yourself and your own business. This is the same with our banking environment, right? Through the infinite banking concept, is we have to, if we're going to borrow against our policies to, finance life, whether it's purchases or investments, that we make those payments back into our own banking environment, just like if we were borrowed directly from a physical bank, right? So we have to make sure that we're staying true to the nature of the process itself and paying back money into our own storage bin that was going to support us and our families down the road. The fourth one rule is don't do business with banks. And obviously, as people start the infinite banking concept and put that into their life and in their lifestyle, it's not going to be immediate. You won't be able to do it because you have to build up the capital and be able to do it. So, maybe down the road, and I think Nelson in the book, it took him nearly 20 years to kind of remove it from his world. So it happens over time. Think about a mortgage. I mean, that's a large debt that can't easily extinguish right away. But over time, as you're building up your system, that this could be a possibility. And so Nelson was just pointing out the fact that, every time we're using someone else's bank and we're putting money into that, that's money we're not going to get back out. And so this is a bank that we want to fund with our own wealth, and then we'll get to leverage that for our lifetime as well as future generations. And so obviously we do need banks sometimes just for transactional work, but over time, as you're building up your infinite banking sort of platform, that you can potentially remove banks from any massive financing needs you're going to need in life for purchases or investments. And the last one I think was really key and really, I think, encapsulated most of the event for me was to rethink your thinking. And this is so hard because, we get so wrapped up in life and we're so busy that, we learn certain things, and sometimes it's hard to unlearn things because we become less open-minded and we feel like we know it all, we've arrived, and that's kind of part of what we always need to test ourselves, because we have to evolve, adapt our thinking around things. And we can easily fall prey to not thinking about anything else. We just kind of want to shortcut things and not really evaluate. So this is a good time to be thinking about, like, think about the banking function in our lives, from storing wealth to borrowing, and how we get into this routine of relying on third party banks to do it. Well, what if you could actually own that portion of your world, right? To support your family, support your businesses, investments, and do it in a much more efficient way that puts the control under your wealth. What kind of power would that give you, and confidence and certainty in life? And that requires to think a little differently. I remember the time when I first read Becoming Your Own Banker. It took me a while to really grasp it. I had to read the book two times in a row because it just really, I was like, I didn't understand what I was reading. And so it's a funny sort of concept, and a lot of practitioners talk about this way, that infinite banking is not taught, it's actually caught, right? Because you're hoping to, to absorb it, understand the concepts of it, and see how it fits into kind of your own belief system and how it might work. And then it almost becomes a light bulb switch. And that's the type of stuff, even though I help teach it to clients and share with it, but it's really, it will come down to the individual on the other end of how they're adapting and understanding and interpreting it. And that's why I love the concept, because it isn't what I'm telling people what to do. It's what I share in terms of education that allows them to absorb it and learn it for themselves, so they can own it and control it for themselves, their families, and for future generations in their lineage. So that was a key aspect of it too, that we're constantly just focused on education and making sure people have the information that to make informed decisions about what's happening and then what to do about it. Because ideally, once you know what's going on, then you'll know what to do next. And that's why you focus on the problem. And the problem's always been that because of the way most people have come to learn about financing things in their lives, it's been causing most people to lose significant wealth through the transfer of money to banks and the interest costs. And so when we're financing things, whether we're paying cash and losing the ability to earn from that money, or literally borrowing from a bank, it's causing some headwinds to our wealth building. And so the infinite banking concept is meant to bring that back into our own world so we can control that and recapture interest that would have gone to somebody else through a third party. And that's really the concept of it all. And so what I really want to reinforce, and this was a kind of another big takeaway and reinforcement to me during the course of the think tank, is infinite banking concept is not an investment. It's not a product or tool. Yes, it uses specially designed whole life insurance policies through mutual carriers, but it's not really so much about that. It's really a lifestyle and thinking about things. Do you want to own and control your wealth, right? And the biggest need we have in our lifetime is to finance things through purchases or investments to build our wealth. So, how would it be advantageous to control that more, right? And so the infinite banking concept really just teaches how you can do that over time and how others have used it to also perpetuate the next generation to also steward their wealth in the most productive and efficient manner. And that's why it's really, in the world of finance, it's always trying to say, hey, my rate of return is bigger than yours, or getting very product specific. But this is a much broader lens, and it really encapsulates people's desire to have more freedom, control of their wealth, and make sure it's getting used for the things that they want it for, instead of money being flowing away from us and externally to somebody else, and they're taking all the benefits, right? And we see it now within the banking environments and financial world that a lot of that the wealth is being transferred there, and they're making money off of our money. So why couldn't we do the same? Another kind of big takeaway from me was around control and certainty. I think in the world we live in today, where we have inflation, potential economic downturns, who knows, debts are rising all over the place, from governments to individuals to businesses, that how can you gain a level of control and certainty of your life, and certainly your financial life? And that's what, in my mind, really epitomizes the power of the infinite banking concept. It's really bringing the control and certainty of our core storage of our wealth, right? And then the use of that wealth over time, that we get to deploy that, and we can use that all through life. And so that really is a centerpiece for me around that, because if you think about from the banking side of things, and when we deposit money into banks, and then they're using our money to loan to other people, and because they're can take advantage of the fractional reserve lending sort of regime that exists there, they can loan out multiple times of what we deposit, and create sort of inflationary pressures on our monetary system and money supply. Well, you can't do that within the infinite banking concept, and certainly in the life insurance world, because you only could borrow the amount up to the amount of cash you have in that account. So you can't just create loans that are multiple times of what's in the system. And so it helps to manage any inflationary pressures and control the money supply. And so those are important concepts for those who are believers in the infinite banking concept, is that helps to stabilize the environment, as opposed to making it very fragile as more money is being printed and lending goes out of whack, and it could lead to malinvestments across the board as more money enters the system. So really, this is really about for those who are looking to control, gain more certainty around their core management and cash management systems, and then deploy them for things that are most productive, whether it's their ownership in real estate, their businesses, or even development and education, right? But they get to direct that in the most efficient way. And the last thing I want to share, and this is probably more centered around the flights, right? I took a flight out to Vegas from New York and back, and going there, right, we were facing a bunch of headwinds, and so it took nearly 5.5 hours to get there. It was a fine flight, but we had headwinds that were making it more difficult and taking much more energy to get to where we were going. Conversely, as I took the flight back home, we were benefiting from tailwinds from the direction we were going that we got there in less than 4 hours, or 4 hours, just a hair above 4 hours. And so that is something that Nelson really points to in terms of becoming your own banker, and the infinite banking concept is to build a system and sort of process to give us constant tailwinds in our wealth building ability, right? Continue to have our money flowing and growing and compounding without being disrupted, right? This is the whole idea behind it. And so setting up this system really puts people in a massive advantage to have tailwinds push us, propel our wealth to greater heights. And I'll say it, infinite heights in terms of what it could be used for, but it really requires people to adopt and understand how that can be placed, and making sure they're thinking long term about it, because this is a building. This is almost like building your own banking business, but you have to be committed to it, understand it, and then ensure that you're following the rules that really are going to give it the highest chance of success, and really continue to grow and learn and utilize it. So those were some of the big keys that I got away, and certainly, I'll leave it. One last one is the power of constant learning, because we can easily get caught in feeling we know enough, right? We know enough to know what to do. But the reality is that some of these things take time, and they take time to grow and learn and evolve and adapt. But that requires us to actually do some extra work and continue learning and stay on top and stay responsible for our own wealth and certainly our lives. And that takes more energy. And so the infinite banking concept, what I have come to realize, this is for those people who are striving for more, who want to own and control their lives and gain more control, freedom, and certainty on what's happening. And that's what this is a great fit for, to control the biggest component in our lives is how we finance everything. And so really it's almost like a match made in heaven. And it's really important for people to recognize whether it's a good fit or not for them, and sink their teeth into learning more about it to see how it can really impact their lives. So that's all I have to share this time. And certainly if anyone wants to learn more about it, certainly reach out. I'd love to chat and learn. And I certainly encourage you to go out and get the book, Becoming Your Own Banker. It's a less than an 80-page book, but absolutely filled with tremendous wisdom, not just on how to manage your personal finances, but on your mindset and sort of how to live a wonderful life. So I really encourage you to do so. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it, and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.